Meet Marshal Mathers IV.
She would run away in fear and terror and horror. She replied very soon with, "You ugly potato-headed looking N-word." I mean, also, my dream girl would also be a girl who would burp in my ears. I mean, oh my God. More hostile, more angry, more full of rage and hatred, more envious, more jealous.
Isaac Holmes, also known as Marshal Mathers IV, the Black-Pilled Joker, and Darth Nihilus, is a 27-year-old content creator from the United States. Isaac lives with his family of 2 very religious parents and 7 siblings, most of which still live at home. Their family is solely supported by the father, who is a prison doctor. And due to the size of the family, finances are pretty tight. Despite this, Isaac has held very few jobs in his lifetime, claiming it is either due to a lack of transportation or an overabundance of bodily functions. He also blames a lot of this on the fact that he is a high school dropout. Isaac claims that he left school due to a combination of bullying and not being able to find a girlfriend. That last bit in particular eats Isaac alive. And years after leaving high school, he would create a YouTube channel called Marshal Mathers IV. It was there that he displayed his general hate towards everything, especially women, who he seemed to blame for not wanting to be his girlfriend. Marshal Mathers IV is a YouTube channel that was created by Isaac back in 2014. Its content would mostly consist of him sitting in front of a camera and telling people why he hated certain things. Initially, it started off innocent enough, with his first video being Why I Hate the Movie Cars. Pixar's Cars is a beloved movie by kids and adults alike, so people were very curious as to why he hated it. Isaac claims it is because there is a joke in the movie that he does not think is funny, nor should be a laughing matter, and that's farts. Isaac took issue with the fact that Mater was rusty and immature, and that he liked to tip the cows that were tractors in the movie, which once tipped farted. To him, none of this was a laughing matter. In fact, all of these topics were quite serious. It would not be until later that we would realize just how deep that rabbit hole went. For now, Isaac's content consisted mainly of him discussing various topics and items that he absolutely despised, most hilarious of which being the microwave.
I believe strongly that microwaves cause cancer, for one. For two, I believe that they emit radiation, even though everybody says that the holes are too small for radiation to leak out. And of course people say that microwaves don't cause cancer either, because what scientists have proved or whatever or said. But I absolutely, positively hate microwaves. And if I could, of course, if time machines existed, I'd go back in time and at least try to stop the idiot who invented them in the first place, because I think they're the worst and most terrible invention ever invented. And if I were to ever have friends, I would hope that they would hate microwaves, otherwise our friendship would be toxic. And I would hope if I ever had a girlfriend, or for that matter a wife, I would hope to God she too would hate the microwave, because otherwise it'd be a toxic relationship, and that marriage would definitely end very quickly. I hate the sound they give off when they're going or working, and I hate the light that comes on when it's heating up your food. And microwaves are just absolutely wretched. They don't actually cook food, they just warm it up.
Isaac does have some fair points there. Not about microwaves causing cancer, there is absolutely no proof behind that. Mainly about the fact that microwaves just heat up food, they don't cook it. I'm not going to debate him on the inferiority of microwaved foods, because he's right. When something's microwaved, it's just not the same as when it's cooked fresh. But I am baffled at the fact that one of the prerequisites for his girlfriend is that they have to despise the microwave, and refrain from using it in any capacity around him. And this is not the only requirement to be his girlfriend. In fact, that list is quite long and seems to extend by the day, because this would become one of the major focal points of his content moving forward, proclaiming his absolute hate towards women for rejecting him and not wanting to be in a relationship, along with couples who he would see in public, claiming that the mere sight of their happiness would cause him great emotional torment. You will notice that his attitude is very negative and that he very rarely has anything positive to say. So it's not surprising that instead of taking advice, he would rather insult himself and explain to us why no woman would ever want to be in a relationship with him. Because believe it or not, he has a definitive answer as to why none of the chicks he likes will ever be interested in him. And it's not what you'd expect.
I'm ugly, to be honest, and I know a lot of you say that I'm a genetic Chad or that I'm good looking or handsome or whatever, and it's not like the first time people in my life have said that to me, but I'm going to show you something that none of you have really ever seen. I have a deformed nose on my right side. I feel like if I ever were to get a girlfriend, I just have a feeling like she would run away in fear and terror and horror because of that. Because the kind and type of girls that I want are just way out of my league.
Many times people have tried to explain to Isaac that he is not an ugly person, and that it is most likely his pessimistic attitude that is driving off the majority of his potential girlfriends. But he refuses to take any advice. In fact, he makes it a general point to ignore all advice, questioning why anyone who disagreed with him on anything would even be subscribed to his YouTube channel.
Honestly, I don't even think I should have any subscribers at all. I don't think I deserve even one subscriber. Unless that person, whoever he or she is gonna full on completely agree with me in everything I say or think or believe. Otherwise, they should just leave.
Because of this mindset and many of the beliefs that he has, Isaac is a self-identified black-pilled incel. The Webster Dictionary describes incel as a person, usually a man, who regards themselves as involuntarily celibate and typically expresses extreme resentment and hostility towards those who are sexually active. Know Your Meme describes the black pill or black-pilled as a metaphorical term often used to describe a set of beliefs often linked to nihilism, fatalism, and defeatism. Online, the black pill is commonly associated with incels and 4chan users, referred to as doomers, while the red pill is often used in the context of men's rights or right-wing politics. The black pill is usually used in a more general existential context. Isaac falls well within these categories, and he himself has proclaimed to be both of these things. On numerous occasions, he has talked about his disdain for people who do not save themselves for marriage, specifically referring to young people and young couples quite often. He says that he has absolutely no problem seeing an old couple out in public, but if he sees a young couple, it emotionally devastates him. Something very interesting I've noticed about Isaac is that he seems to equate jealousy to hatred. Whenever he is feeling jealousy, he will either find someone or something to claim that he hates. And this doesn't just pertain to romantic partners either. It could be about anything he sees that he himself does not have, especially luxury goods. Isaac has an obsession with owning a $10,000 gaming PC. He has been talking about it for years now, sometimes moving down the price, but usually sticking to around $10,000 as his dream system. He claims that he saw this as he was browsing the internet one day and hasn't been able to get it out of his mind. And after seeing that other YouTubers like PewDiePie and Markiplier actually had these systems, he began to truly hate them. Not for any of their beliefs or anything that they had done, just merely based on the fact that they had what he would never.
And then throughout the years, when I was older, like 17, 18, 19, and so on and so forth, I got even more bitter, more hostile, more angry, more full of rage and hatred, more envious, more jealous, and I would take to YouTube in the comment section a lot to lash out against people who have that stuff that I never did, and who got to experience it and have it themselves as their own. And then I would also think of stuff like my spoiled, rotten, overly privileged cousins, two in particular, who live in California. And then, of course, at the very top, I started thinking about all the famous YouTube gamers on the YouTube platform that I hate with all my heart. And am extremely jealous and envious of, and they're definitely the most people that I'm the most jealous and envious of. Like, it affects me emotionally and mentally to even know that not only they exist, but how many of them there are.
There are two things that seem to rule his mind. They're never far from his thoughts: his lack of a girlfriend and his lack of a $10,000 gaming PC. I don't even think I can begin to describe to you just how highly he holds the ownership of a laptop. He claims that him not owning a laptop is why he can't get a job. He claims that it's the reason he's getting radiation burns from his phone. He claims that he will never be able to truly experience life until he owns that $10,000 gaming PC.
I just want to say that my future is hopeless, and that is a fact. And you know how I know that? Here's how I know. For one, I have absolutely no full-on complete access to a computer, whether that being a desktop or a laptop. I have no access to Wi-Fi, not even on my own phone, and even if I did, I obviously wouldn't use it to apply for jobs online because the screen is too small, as well as the entire cell phone, obviously knowing that it's a shitty-ass mobile device. And not to mention, it gives me radiation burns, which is the worst thing, that I have to end up popping with the needle to get the pus out because it's highly annoying and irritating. And also, it gives me stress and anxiety. Like all mobile devices, actually in general, give me massive, extreme anxiety and stress.
His lack of a gaming PC is only eclipsed by his lack of a girlfriend, which consumes his thoughts all the time. And that is what the vast majority of his content consists of. Him hopping on the camera, explaining why it is not even possible for him to get a girlfriend, and why it is society's fault instead. Maybe you will get a Joker quote here and there, or a threat to one of his trolls, or maybe he will say something absolutely wild. Because while he is thinking and reminiscing about all of these things, he is in no way, shape, or form afraid to tell us exactly the kind of woman that he is after, and exactly what they would have to do to make him happy in a relationship. A fair warning, if any of you are eating, this is probably the point in the video to stop, because from this point forward, things are going to get pretty unappetizing, but also extremely entertaining. You see, Isaac has a set of requirements for any woman that would ever be his girlfriend. First of all, they have to be completely pure, having done nothing with any other partner in the past. Secondly, he would prefer them to be either African American or Latina. And the final requirements are a little bit more tricky, so I think I'll just let Isaac himself explain them to you.
And also, when it comes to also burping and farting, I would, like, let's say I had like chips or a bag of cereal or something, if she were to like burp in a bag of chips and roll it up, or fart in a bag of chips and roll it up, and I would still eat that shit. I mean, like, I swear to God, and I would even want to eat it more, since it would have like the remaining scent of her burp or fart in it. And same with if I'm eating food, I would just love her randomly to fart on my food, regardless of what I'm eating, or burp on it to add some sexy stink to it. So not only am I inhaling and intaking the aroma and scent of her delicious poop, I mean also, my dream girl would also be a girl who would burp in my ears. I mean, oh my god, that would just be so incredibly hot. Just know that I love girls who do stuff like that. I really respect and care about and really hold up girls who are able to do that, who are able to step out of what's considered the norm in society. You're missing out, and you have no idea what you're missing out on. I'm just gonna say it right there. Just point blank. You're missing out. You have absolutely no idea what you're missing out on. You're missing out on something so wonderful and so lovely, like the best possible thing any hot, sexy, gorgeous, beautiful, attractive, good-looking, cute, pretty girl could ever do for you to please and pleasure you. And I would love more than anything a girl to do all those things for me if she were either dating me or married to me. Like, I would literally love her to the ends of the earth.
I'm telling you, this pales in comparison to some of the stuff that I had to cut out. I mean, there's talks of eating certain things, and it's overall just harrowing to experience in its full entirety. He particularly goes into detail about how he needs someone who can burp and fart on command, and that if they would only do that, he would love them to the ends of the earth. I'm sure at the time many people thought that Isaac was trolling. The absolute seriousness in which he states all of these things is almost comedic, but if you watch any of his other videos, you realize that he rarely talks about anything that he is not serious about. To him, all of these topics that he is discussing are extremely serious and very real. As he showed us with the Cars movie, to him, farts are no joking matter, and neither is the pursuit of his dream girl, because he does not just limit himself to thinking these things, he also goes out and contacts women to do them for him. Not that he has ever been successful, as he is a self-proclaimed black-pilled incel virgin, but that doesn't exclude him from trying. And needless to say, these interactions don't usually go very well.
Because back in 2017, here's a funny little story for you people to laugh at, I guess, if or not you want. I was on Instagram about the time I made an Instagram account, and there was this really hot girl, like, whatever, from Texas, I think, or at least I'm pretty sure. Black girl, but she was mixed. I think she was probably half black and half white, but she looked like she could have been half black and half Mexican or whatever. But anyway, one day just randomly, I don't know why, but I kind of do know why, but I don't know why I actually said it. But I simply just said straight up, can I suck a fart out of your butt or something like that? And she replied very soon with, you ugly ass, potato headed looking N-word. Well, you ugly ass, old, or something like that, potato headed looking N-word. And I love potatoes, I love eating potatoes, and I do agree 100% that my head and face shape is similar to that of a potato.
Isaac is also frustrated at the number of women who seem to have no interest in the things that he is interested in, and has so many prerequisites for being his girlfriend that very few would fall into the category of even eligible. Realizing this, for a time, Isaac became a self-proclaimed furry, stating that while he would not wear the suits, he definitely had an appreciation for the art and culture, specifically referencing a Winnie the Pooh movie that he really enjoyed. played, proclaiming the actresses' voices to be hot. He would also profusely blame Disney for turning him into a furry, which is actually a pretty popular conspiracy theory that Disney created the furry fandom by creating all the animated movies they did of animals. I wish that I could sit here and say that this is the depth of Isaac's degeneracy, that he's simply a guy that loves burps and is a furry. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not coming down on burp lovers or furries, but there are a number of things that Isaac has talked about and discussed being into that are very well worth some criticism. One of which being his obsession with Kanika Jenkins. For months, Isaac would not be quiet about this woman named Kanika, how he was such a fan of hers, he loved her, and it was really just the ideal woman for him. Without the context of this being a bad thing, you'd probably think, good for him, he's finally starting to get out of this woman-hating phase. Until we just do a little bit of research into who Kanika Jenkins was. On September 10th, 2017, Kanika Jenkins, a 19-year-old from Chicago, Illinois, was found dead inside of a latched freezer. It is speculated that after a night of partying with her friends, heavily intoxicated, she wandered into this freezer where she became trapped and sadly passed away. Kanika's story would be covered by various national news organizations who still update the public on the family's status. Isaac would have absolutely no way of knowing that this young girl even existed if it wasn't for these news stories of her tragic passing. And it is extremely disturbing that he holds her up as some sort of romantic figure merely because this is how he found her, describing her as the perfect model of what his dream girl would be. Isaac has also made comments comparing himself to Elliot Rodger on numerous occasions. Despite never outwardly displaying violence or threatening anyone but his trolls, I find his obsession with Kanika and Elliot to be quite unnerving, especially with someone who has proclaimed his hate for young women on numerous occasions. Despite his obsessions and intricacies, he still had amassed a fair amount of people who completely agreed with everything he said and loved him as a content creator. They would send him donations, show him support in the comments sections, and generally commiserate about their lives. That is, until he made one of his most controversial remarks, and even some of his most die-hard fans turned on him after this. In a video that he posted to YouTube, he would go on usually about his desire for a girlfriend, and the certain acts that he desired them to perform. Only this time he was hyper-specific about the age range that he wanted this person to be, claiming that he preferred it would be either a 14, 15, or 16-year-old African-American girl. Isaac had gone on this far, receiving a fair amount of criticism for what he had been saying. The stuff about hating women, the stuff about hating movies, about hating certain people. It was all going to get him a relative amount of backlash, but it would be nothing compared to what this would bring down on him. Almost immediately, Isaac made a video claiming that he regretted the comments that he had made about African American teenagers. Despite this, people would begin to spread clips and further discuss Isaac in a broader fashion. He had been observed for years now, don't get me wrong there. There have been people watching him since damn near the start. But he would not come to the wider attention of the public until he made these comments. There is no finer example than the video made by a content creator called The Grease Wizard. He would make a video discussing the various things that Marshall had done as well as claimed, and this would expose him to a far wider audience. Isaac would come to absolutely despise the Grease Wizard for supposedly making a video that painted him in a negative light, often insulting him for being either blue-pilled or British. He would also see coverage from another YouTuber called Based Shaman, who would livestream Isaac's antics on the regular. Even though he truly hated the content creators that were covering him on their channels, this would pale in comparison to the people who doxed him. Isaac's dox had been known for quite a while, and after the comments he had made about the teenage African-American girl, harassment started to ramp up. Both he and his family would grow so sick of it that he would leave the internet completely, and there would be no sign of him for a couple of months. This was very out of the norm for him because he was posting at least once a month for years. He had claimed in a community post that he was officially quitting because of the trolls. in early 2024, Isaac Holmes would return to the internet, this time under a new name, Darth Nihilus. In the time that Isaac had spent off the internet, he managed to grow a pretty impressive beard. It truly looked like a new him, and I thought maybe a new mentality would follow. But I was a fool to think so, and it truly shows my newness to Marshal Mathers IV lore. Because if there is one thing about Isaac, well, he never changes.
Us incels also have immense, extreme, severe hatred and anger towards young women because we ourselves as incel men have never been successful with them. We've never been able to, easily and successfully get into relationships with them, whether it be boy and girlfriend relationship or husband and wife relationship. Because when it comes to us incel men, whenever we like a woman or women and have a crush on them or whatever, we're too shy of them, we're uncomfortable, nervous, stressed out, and intimidated around them or by them, by their presence, by their physical attractiveness. And it's just too much for us. It's too overwhelming. It's too overbearing for us incel men, even being in the physical presence of any beautiful women anywhere.
While he may have had a new look, it was the same old Isaac. His main content consists of rants, why movies should have been released on certain dates, and why he hates certain people and objects, just like it's always been. But this time something actually was different. He created a TikTok account as well. He would go by the Black-Pilled Joker, and mainly what he would post over there would be news articles pertaining to his incel mindset, thirst trap photos of certain celebrities who were usually blonde and in their mid-20s, and of course arguments in his comments sections, which happen quite frequently. He seems to be using the platform of TikTok to just be getting into arguments with people, as he will respond to nearly every critical comment on his TikTok page. Something that was also new with Isaac is that he had found a job. He claimed that in his time offline that he had spent a couple of months working for Popeyes, but he also claims that it was simply too much for his parents to drive there, as well as the fact that he has to poop at least 3 times in the morning every day. These would be the main factors that played into the end of his employment there. Usually Isaac would talk about how it was physically impossible for him to get a job because he didn't have a laptop, and that no job would ever pay him the amount that he needed to get his beloved gaming PC. So this was a pretty big change for Isaac, and even though he only held the job for a couple of months, it was more than he'd ever worked in his entire life before. It seemed like things had settled back into normal for him. Incel rants, the usual. That is, until a YouTuber approached him to do an in-real-life documentary. Your Favorite Son is a YouTuber who usually covers video game content, but recently has been branching out into creating documentaries over eccentric internet characters. He wanted to do one of these such documentaries on Marshal Mathers IV. Isaac wholeheartedly agreed to be a part of it, wanting to share his side of the story to the world. Your Favorite Son would conduct an interview with Marshal Mathers IV that ended up being so graphic that he canceled the entire documentary. Isaac was absolutely open and unapologetic about his likes, especially towards teenage girls, which he mentions out of almost nowhere. Your Favorite Son would also review Isaac's Instagram account, which is full of liked photos of teenage girls in bikinis, as well as various photos and videos of people farting and burping. I would like to say that I completely respect Your Favorite Son's decision on this end. Isaac's comments on this kind of stuff were very limited in the past, so he had no real way of knowing. It had really been years since he had said something like this, but Your Favorite Son would describe him as completely unremorseful and unapologetic when discussing these topics. And sadly, this wouldn't be the end of sus things found out about Isaac. A series of leaked DMs between Isaac and a troll showed that he had a certain infatuation with his sisters. I don't really want to go deeper than that, just know that it is very disturbing because they are much younger than him, and seem to still live in the same home as he does. As where previously Isaac could feign regret, now he has nothing to hide behind. He has talked about these things on numerous occasions and obviously holds them in high regard. I can already see it now. He will probably claim that I am painting him in a negative light throughout this whole video, and that I have taken into consideration absolutely none of his hardships and struggles. But I would also like to say this. Everything that I have discussed has either come from Isaac's mouth or typed by his hands. No one has forced or even coerced any of this information out of him. He freely shares all of these thoughts, opinions, and beliefs. Isaac, on the chance that you are listening, I know that you hate advice, so I'm going to spit some facts. This pessimistic attitude that you have is absolute poison. The world that you have created for yourself in your mind has absolutely no hope when there are so many ways that you can work on improving your life. For over 8 years now you have complained about wanting this gaming PC. If you would have worked this whole time, I guarantee you could have saved enough to actually have it. You have no bills. And if you didn't have this attitude that women are horrible in general, then I guarantee you would have a much easier time finding a partner. And your obsession with Kanika, Elliot, and these teenagers is very well worth criticism. You cannot simp for a girl who died tragically, prop up this horrible, evil man, and lust after these kinds of people without expecting a certain level of negative reaction from the public. But the most important thing I want to tell you, Isaac, is that jealousy does not equal hate. Hating someone just because of jealousy is truly a self-defeating process. If you want something that you don't have, look at someone that has it, see how they got there, and emulate their behavior. It may not work every time, but it's certainly better than just sitting there believing truly that nothing will ever change and it's not even possible.